Hey everyone, Ryan Young, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu. Hope you're doing well. I'm sitting on a main drag right here, right outside our new Flower Mound studio, which will be located at 1001 Cross Timbers Road, Suite 1200 in Flower Mound, Texas. It's about a block away from our old location in Parker Square. It's going to be a lot nicer, much larger, almost 3 times larger with 3 mats. We'll have showers, we'll have lounges for adults and for kids. We'll have an executive service. We'll have towel service, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be awesome. But anyway, by the time you watch this, hopefully the studio will be open. Come on by and come for a visit. Anyway, so today's topic is going to be, how do you train when you're in an academy with multiple black belts? And this is especially an issue if the black belts were not taught by the black belt that runs the school. Sometimes what will happen is a person who owns a school, they were teaching multiple classes a week, and it just got really physically and mentally draining on them. So they were looking at any opportunities they could to bring in other black belts to teach for them. Now that's a good thing, because when you sell your academy, not sell your academy, as in sell it, but when you sell it to a consumer, hey, come check out our academy. I've got 5 black belts that are teaching classes. The consumer goes, wow, that's actually pretty cool. You've got a lot of black belts. I go to another school where there's only 1 black belt teaching, and he might have some other classes where some blue, purple, brown belts, some junior instructors are running their classes. So since you have 5, that's awesome. So yeah, I'll go to your school. A lot of times what happens is, since those black belts were not trained by the same professor, they all do jiu-jitsu differently. So some might say, well, that's a good thing, because this guy teaches this way, this guy teaches another way, this guy teaches another, this guy teaches another way. So you get a breadth of experience and a breadth of jiu-jitsu in your one studio. You would think that's awesome, right? Well, it kind of is, right? So me, as a black belt, if I have a school that has 4 other black belts and I want to learn a different concept, I see somebody doing it out in the jiu-jitsu community, and I go, hey, that actually looks pretty good. So I ask James, James, you do that particular thing, don't you? Yeah, I do. Can you show it to me? Can you teach it to me so I can kind of go over it? I want to know how it works, and I want to know how to be able to defend it and all that kind of stuff. So you're like, yeah, sure. So he shows it to me. So that was one way in which having somebody who does a completely different style of jiu-jitsu than me helped me, right? It gave me an avenue that I didn't already have, and it enlightened me on something that I knew existed, but I didn't really know how to do, and I didn't know the ins and outs. Now, I am to the point where I can pretty much look at something, I can study it, and I can go, yeah, okay, I can figure it out. And if I play around with it, I'll get it done, and I'll bounce it off of some students of mine. Okay, hey, have you guys seen this? Yeah, okay, let's work on it. Show me what you got. And, and I can kind of figure it out over time. But it's a lot easier having a guy who does it really well teach it to me. Now, what if I am a white belt and I'm just coming into the school, I've never done jiu-jitsu before, and I want to learn? And the classes that I go to, let's say it's the Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. class. Let's say your school does have one. Ours doesn't, but let's say you have an 8 a.m. class, and I can make that every morning. And you have 5 different instructors that teach it. One each Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? So different, your 5 black belts, they each teach a different day. So I go in one day and I'm learning let's say I'm learning guard passes on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I learn cross-side escapes. On Wednesday, I learn punch defense from standing. And, so I'm learning all different concepts from all different instructors. And you'd think, wow, I've got 5 different black belts, all high-level guys, all teaching a different concept. Look, I learned 5 different things in a week. Yes, you did. But at the end of the week, how many of those 5 concepts do you know, right? You don't really know them. You learned them, but you don't know them. Why? Because you didn't really have enough of the repetition and drilling and going over and over and over with it. Now, you do have those few people, like your Dave Kamas, who could learn something and then pretty much have it down going forward and have it memorized so that he could actually call upon it later. Now, of course, he's not going to be 100% dialed in, but he'll be pretty close, right? But someone like him is few and far between. Very rare type individual. But let's say, well, no, we do it a different way, where our school has one concept for the entire week and all the instructors teach it. Okay, fine. So let's say the entire week we're doing guard passes. So every single class you go to, Monday through Friday, we'll be doing guard passes. But here's the problem. All 5 black belts pass guard differently. Let's say you start with a closed guard. You'll have 5 different ways to break it open. You'll have 5 different ways to do a pass, and you'll have counters to each one of those 5 passes. So let's say I try to do what we call a guard pass 1, which is the regular LEO guard pass, right? I go and set it up, and I've got my 1, 2, 3 based on it, to counter it. But somebody else, the Tuesday guy, will teach another guard pass. Let's say he'll teach a Toreando guard pass, right? Break it open, Toreando. And then he's got, well, what if your opponent does this, this, this? So you got all these counters. So the confused white belt just learned 5 different ways to pass a guard. And every one of them are very good at it. And for every one of them, that's their number 1 guard pass. So here I am, a beginner white belt. I don't know what to think and believe, right? James says this is the best way to pass a guard. Brian says this is the best way to pass a guard. Joe says this is the best way to pass a guard. And who am I to question any of them, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to be confused. So it really gets to be very difficult for a new person to be able to thrive in an environment with a lot of different black belt instructors. The reason is because you're learning from a fire hose, or you're trying to drink from a fire hose, so to speak. And there's no way that you can take in that volume of water, or in this case, that volume of jiu-jitsu. It's just too much, too fast. So what do, right? You're not going to get any better. You're going to learn a whole bunch of shit, good shit, right? Probably some bad, but you're still going to learn a whole bunch. You're going to learn way more than you're really supposed to at the level that you're at. So what do? Well, then you go and ask a particular black belt. Hey, everybody's doing this certain thing, and you talk to James, for instance. James goes, yeah, I'm not really a big fan of the way Brian passes, and here's why. And he shows you legitimate reasons why. So the next day you go to Brian and say, hey, Brian, I'm trying to figure out how to do this guard passing, and I really like the way James passes. And Brian's going to go, yeah, James has a good pass, but here's what the problem is with it. And he shows you all the legitimate concerns of James's passing style. Now you're thoroughly confused, because that's just 2 instructors. You got 3 more to go through, right? And another example is one instructor, James, will show you how to do something, and the next day Brian will say, never under any circumstances do you do that. Sir, James just showed it to me yesterday. Well, I understand James showed it to you yesterday, but don't ever do that. What do? What do you believe? Who do you believe? It gets so bad. Now, here's an alternative. What about if you have one head instructor who dictates how everybody teaches with an instructor training program, and who is strict with his instructors on how to do it? Because, why? Why would you want that? Because here you are, you're the white belt. You're the only day you can train, only times you can train are weekdays at 8 a.m. It would be nice if only one instructor were teaching all the classes, but because of the way the schedule is set up, you have 5 different instructors. But what if all 5 instructors were teaching the same thing to you, the white belt, in the same way, and answering questions the same way? Would that be a whole lot easier? It dang well will be a whole lot easier. But why doesn't every school do that? Part of the reason is because they don't have a curriculum. Another reason is because they'll go and hire black belts that got their black belts from all over the place. All different instructors. There's so many different styles of jiu-jitsu now. There is no one style of jiu-jitsu anymore. It's not jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu anymore. It's very branded. And even sometimes you think that you have a brand of jiu-jitsu, so you go there, I want to do this style of jiu-jitsu because it comes down from this master. Well, that master runs a master and affiliate setup for his school, right? Ex-Gracie. And anywhere in the world you go to an ex-Gracie academy, it's got his name on it. Well, what about if ex-Gracie in Sweden got his black belt from John Smith, right? But now has an ex-Gracie affiliate because he pays ex-Gracie $400 a month to use his name. So here I am, I go looking for ex-Gracie's jiu-jitsu, and I go and I get John Smith's jiu-jitsu. That's just kind of how it is, right? Let's say this John Smith, I mean, I don't know any John Smith. I'm just using that because that's just like a John Doe type thing, right? So let's say John Smith has created 10 black belts, and they're now all over the world, and they're not running John Smith jiu-jitsu schools. They're running X-Gracie, Y-Gracie, Z-Gracie, whatever MMA studio. They're running jiu-jitsu programs, and those schools that they're at are their own brand, but they don't have their own brand of jiu-jitsu. They just have their own brand. It makes it so tough. You, as a white belt, will get so confused on how to learn jiu-jitsu. No wonder people have been training for a number of years and they still have zero understanding of what jiu-jitsu is. They've got a lot of mat time. They've rolled a lot, right? I've got a shit ton of mat time, and because of that I should be X belt. Maybe not. You know how I talk about belt ranking and mat time and all that. It's not necessarily the best measure of success or competence either, for that matter. So what do? It's really hard. But what you need to do is you need to choose one instructor, and you need to learn that one instructor's jiu-jitsu. Of the 5 that find one that you really like the most and learn from that instructor. Be his or her student. And you can go to the other classes, but you have to consciously think to yourself, I can't learn what this guy is doing. I'm just here to get reps in. And if Brian yells at you for something James taught you, just say, oh yeah, I'm sorry about it. My mistake. And then move on. And then when Brian moves on to another student, go back and do it the way James taught you, right? It's kind of, on the one hand, I guess you could say it's kind of bad for me to tell you that, but really, that's kind of like what you need to do. You need to take your learning into your own hands, because if you try to learn from 5 different masters, you're going to get little bits and pieces of 5 masters jiu-jitsu, and you will be no good. If you're a phenom, that's another thing. But phenoms are 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000. So let's assume you're one of the remaining 999 out of 1,000. So to kind of tie all this up, right? I drew the scenario out where you're in a school that has multiple black belts, and that's what attracted you to that studio versus the one who had 1 black belt, right? You're still going to focus on one of those 5 black belts. You may go to classes for the other black belts, but you need to choose one person to take the duties of teaching you. And you, as a student, need to be a faithful student of that one instructor that you chose to follow. That's the only way that you can get competent. Now, here's the thing. Once you get to that black belt level with that instructor, you can now branch out and learn the other stuff from the other 4 black belt instructors, because you have a grounding, you have a foundation, you have a base in jiu-jitsu that is logical, that you understand, that you are very good at. Now you can pick up outside additional side skills to round out your jiu-jitsu. I went the one instructor route. I just learned from Dave. And like I'd mentioned in another video I recently did, I looked at, let's say out of 100 things that I do, let's say 80 of them were different. Dave did them differently. But 20 of them were similar. I kept those 20, and whatever the remaining 80 were, I just looked at it and said, hey, Dave, how do you do it? He showed me, and now that is the way I do it. And I did it over and over and over again. I forgot the way I did it in the past. Maybe I didn't forget. I just didn't do it anymore. I didn't reinforce it. Instead, I stopped paying attention to it. I stopped feeding that animal, and I fed another animal. And I did it over and over and over again. So now everything Dave teaches, I understand. And at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu here, we have many instructors, right? We have an instructor training program. We teach them to do things and to teach things uniformly. Now, is it perfect? Well, no, because when you're dealing with individual human beings, everybody's going to add their own little twist to it. But it's the head instructor's job, my job in the Flower Mountains case, to look over those variations and evaluate them and go, no, I need you to do it this way. Or, yeah, that actually works, right? Keep doing what you're doing if it's something that it's a style issue. If it's a curriculum issue, I always bring them back. But I tell them when they're deep in a purple belt, go explore, go do other stuff. But by then, their core, their foundation will be set. And that is the objective. You want to have a single language of Jiu-Jitsu as your core, but be able to speak other languages as time goes on. Hopefully that helps you. And by the way, we have a Rumble channel now. A lot of these videos, we haven't put too many from our back catalog onto Rumble. Maybe that will come over time. But going forward, our videos will be put onto Rumble. So if you prefer to be on Rumble versus YouTube, then you can go ahead and do that. The link to the channel will be below. If not, just go ahead and search out KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu. I hope this video helped you out and it provided some clarity to, especially to those beginners, beginners who are trying to navigate your way through, because a lot of the way Jiu-Jitsu is taught is kind of random, and it's not your fault. It's just really the way it's done. Like and subscribe, and please share the video if you feel it has helped you. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Take care. Happy training. Bye now.